1. Watching myself from the ceiling. When I was a kid, I experienced a recurring nightmare. Over the course of 3 or 4 years, I can't remember exactly when it began, but it would come about once every month or two. Each time it returned, it brought an overwhelming sense of dread. The dream always started the same way. I was lying in my bed asleep. But I wasn't seeing it from my own eyes. I was watching from the ceiling, like a security camera. I could see myself below, sleeping peacefully, or so it seemed. I was fully aware I was dreaming, and yet I was paralyzed. It was a strange out-of-body experience. I couldn't move, only look around the room. That's when I'd start to notice things were off. The first clue was always the digital clock on my nightstand. It ticked backward, the numbers counting down instead of up. Then, I'd notice childlike crayon drawings taped all over my bedroom walls and furniture. They showed a row of people holding hands in front of a house with a blue roof. Always smiling, always the same setup. In the center was a small figure that I somehow knew was me. But the thing is, I never liked to draw as a kid. Those drawings shouldn't have existed. Next, I'd noticed something else: an old toy train that had been missing for years, suddenly sitting in the middle of the floor. That detail always rattled me, because I remembered losing that train during a move. It was gone, but here it was again, exactly where it didn't belong. Then, I would feel it, the pull toward the window. I never chose to look. It was like my head turned on its own. And there, without fail, stood a man. He was inches from the glass. Short gray hair, a long scar on his left temple. His face was calm, empty, and pale. He would stare at me for several seconds. Then, slowly, he began to scratch the window. Not with urgency but deliberately, as if trying to open it. That's when I'd wake up either screaming or frozen in fear. And every time, I'd check the window. I'd look for handprints, marks, anything. There was never a sign of him. After the 4th time, I told my parents. My mom said recurring dreams were normal. My dad walked the perimeter of the house with me that night. We found nothing. Still, the dream kept coming. Then, after a year or so, I had the same dream again, but this time, something was different. The window was open. Cold air blew into the room. And this time, the man wasn't just outside. He was crawling through. I was helpless, floating above my body, screaming in my mind. But I couldn't move, couldn't stop it. When I finally woke, I experienced sleep paralysis. My body was frozen. I couldn't scream, couldn't run. But I could feel the chill. For several minutes, I lay there, convinced the window was open. Eventually, I managed to move. I sprinted to the window. It was locked. After that, the dreams stopped for a while. 6 months passed, and when it returned, I felt different. I wasn't as scared. I had spent so much time preparing myself mentally for it, rehearsing what I'd do. Strangely, that made it easier. I still had the dream a few more times, but it never affected me quite the same way, until I told my parents again, this time, with full detail. When I described the scar on the man's forehead, my dad's face changed. He interrupted me, asking if I was sure. I nodded. He glanced at my mom, and something passed between them, something I wasn't meant to see. A few days later, they sat me down. There was a man named Brian. He was a college friend of my dad's who used to watch me when I was very little. They always called him Uncle Brian, even though we weren't related. He was around a lot when I was a toddler. But something happened, something serious. My dad said they had a falling out, and Brian was never allowed near our family again. He refused to say what happened, just that Brian had a scar on his forehead from a car accident, right where I saw it in my dream. They didn't connect the dots for me. They didn't have to. Later that night, my dad opened up a bit more. He said maybe my brain had buried a memory, something I was too young to process. He told me I used to love Brian, that I'd cry when he left, that I wanted him to read me bedtime stories. But I don't remember any of that. Even now, I wonder, was he ever really just in my dreams? 2. The sound of running water. This happened when I was in high school, during a weekend sleepover. At my friend Duncan's house. His parents were away for the weekend, so it was just the three of us. Duncan and Ian camped out on the living room sofas. We stayed up late, playing games and snacking like usual. Eventually, we passed out around 2 or 3 a.m. But that night, I had a dream, one of the strangest and eeriest I'd ever experienced. In the dream, I was adrift on a small sailboat in the middle of a stormy sea. The sky was a weird blend of gray and purple, and the waves were high and chaotic. I was panicking. Then suddenly, water began gushing up through the bottom of the boat. I tried to block the holes with my jacket, but it was hopeless. Just as I was about to go under, a dolphin leapt out of the water. It turned toward me, locked eyes with me, and said, in a calm and clear voice, "Wake up." And I did, bolted upright. I looked around. Duncan and Ian were both sound asleep. Everything seemed normal at first, but then I heard rushing water. Not a drip or trickle, but a powerful stream coming from somewhere upstairs. Curious and uneasy, I crept upstairs. The sound grew louder with each step. It was definitely coming from the bathroom at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and from where I stood, I could see the faucet blasting at full force. That made no sense. We were all asleep. Why would the faucet be on? I froze. The upstairs bathroom had a lot of blind spots, a big counter, a bathtub with a curtain, a corner where the toilet was tucked away. Anyone could have been hiding in there. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, and I did. I went downstairs and shook Duncan awake. I must have looked terrified because he got up right away. I told him what I saw. Together, we headed back upstairs. As soon as Duncan pushed the bathroom door open, it happened a man lunged out from behind the tub and tackled him. The guy had a length of PVC pipe and swung it at Duncan. Instinct took over. I tackled the man from behind. We both struggled to pin him down, but he was strong. Eventually, he broke free, shoved us both aside, and ran. By the time we got to the front porch, he was gone. We called the police, and they arrived about 30 minutes later. They found that one of the downstairs windows had been left unlocked, the point of entry. Duncan's family didn't have cameras, so there was no footage. The police called it an attempted burglary, but that didn't sit right with any of us. Who turns on a faucet during a break-in? It made no sense. It wasn't just a distraction. It felt like a trap, something meant to lure one of us upstairs. Duncan believes the intruder knew his parents were out of town and expected him to be alone that night. If that's true, I can't even imagine what might have happened if I had walked into that bathroom alone. 3. The light under the door. This story takes place on another weekend. My girlfriend Bonnie's parents had gone away for an anniversary trip. Normally, they were strict about sleepovers, but this time, we had the house to ourselves. Bonnie lived in a quiet suburb where every house looked the same. By 10 p.m., the whole neighborhood fell into a deep silence. Her room was upstairs, and her window overlooked a dense forest that bordered their backyard. At night, it was just pitch black out there, like staring into nothing. We watched a movie, ate snacks, and went to bed around midnight. But that night, I had what I can only describe as a false awakening dream. In the dream, I woke up to the sound of the front door slamming. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. I jolted upright, ready to confront whoever had broken in. Then I saw it, the thin strip of yellow light seeping in under the door. Everything else in the room was normal, exactly as we'd left it. But that light paralyzed me. I couldn't take my eyes off it. Then the voices started. First one female, cruel, mocking. She said awful things about Memi appearance, my failures, my future. But then she got personal. She said things no stranger could know. Things I had never told anyone. Childhood secrets, private regrets. Then other voices joined in. Dozens, hundreds, screaming, whispering, laughing. It felt like my mind was being dissected. Every hidden thought dragged into the open. I couldn't take it. I threw the covers off and ran to the door. The second I opened it, every light in the house went out. Darkness swallowed everything. The voices stopped. The air turned freezing. I stumbled back to the bed, like a child hiding under the blankets. And then I woke up or thought I did. Same room, same light under the door, same sequence. The dream repeated. Only after the second loop did I finally wake up for real. Bonnie was asleep beside me. The room was quiet. My heart was racing. Then I looked at the door again. The light, still there. We were supposed to have turned off every light in the house. My stomach dropped. Then came the footsteps. Someone was in the house. I called the police silently on my phone. Then I locked the door and gently woke Bonnie. She didn't panic. We stayed quiet. The police arrived a few minutes later, kicking in the front door. They arrested two masked men trying to escape through the backyard. Later, we learned they'd seen a social media post about Bonnie's parents being out of town. They thought the house would be empty. But what I still don't understand is the dream, not the break-in. That part one can rationalize. But the content of the dream, the light, the voices, the timing was impossibly specific. As if my mind had been tipped off by something real. Even now, I can still see that strip of light when I close my eyes. Sometimes, I don't even have to close them.